Hey guys, Josh here, and you're watching Chimp Skills. And today we're talking about managing your time or time management. Seriously, when I hear those words, I want to run away. So I actually did a course at the end of last year for work, and it was completely by accident. I never would have picked this course if it wasn't for some other events that were happening around the same time. So I had a friend's bucks party I had to get to in Sydney. I didn't want to pay for an airfare, so I went and did a course for work. And it just so happened to be a course on time management. So it was done by a company that's owned by Stephen Covey. So he's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the course that I did was called 5 Choices, which is a continuation of 7 Habits. It was interesting, but like many corporate courses, it was about 2 hours of value in the whole day, and the rest of it was just, you could skip it. So lucky you guys, I'm just sharing the good bits. The main aspects I got out of it was the way that they break down tasks, which I'll go into with this sort of diagram thingy behind me, and also the way that we certain parts of our brain react to different tasks that were delegated. So they talked about if we're in a reactionary sort of state, we're using our primitive or our lizard brain, and that's where we can become sort of impulsive, irrational. Our reflexes sort of fit into that part. So it's all good and well if you touch something hot and you just pull it away. You don't have to sort of think about it, and you can save your hand from getting burnt. But when it comes to making decisions, we can get caught in a bit of a spiral. And our brain can just sort of get in a bit of a spin, and it's sort of hard to break out of that. I always think about if you've got a to-do list, and you get to the bottom of your to-do list, what happens? You write more stuff on that to-do list. One of the major sort of, I guess, takeaways from the day was that, take a step back and sort of have a bit of more of a plan in regards to like how you're going to spend your time. That brings me to the other important component of the brain when it comes to like delegating with tasks and stuff like that is the prefrontal cortex. So, that's the strategic, the higher order sort of thinking part of the brain where we can show self-control and, rationalize and think things through. When I think about time management, I think about doing a lot less, but getting the most amount of value for the least amount of time. So I'll let you cast your eyes on this diagram here. So this is the way that they break up sort of any task. So this was mainly related to the workplace, but you can apply it anywhere, in just personal life. So they break it into 4 quarters. Importance goes up on the x-axis here. Not importance goes down to the bottom. Urgent comes towards me to the left, and non-urgent going away. So this would be an important urgent task, and this would be a non-important non-urgent task. The first one is necessity. So if we look at the amount of time and energy that you put in for a task of necessity, you would get an equal amount of return for your time and energy. So this includes sort of like unforeseen circumstances like last minute deadlines you may have to meet, emergency meetings. Rest assured though, the amount of time and energy, you're going to get the same amount of return on it. So they're worthwhile tasks doing. Now the second quarter is extraordinary productivity. So this is more, I think about the stuff that it's not urgent, as you can see, but it's important. It's the kind of things that we leave. There's no consequences if we don't do them today or tomorrow or the next day, but they're the ones that give us the greatest return. So this can be, developing our relationships. This can be learning, just relaxing, taking a well-earned break, which, a lot of the time we don't do enough of probably when we're working too hard. I think about the areas of your life where you're going to get the most amount of benefit, but they're just the things that we sort of put off and we're constantly putting off. So that's where they were sort of trying to draw as much of your task from the other quadrants and redirect into that Q2. That was sort of like the really high value and the most return that you're going to get on your time and energy that you put in. Which leads me down to the bottom. So these quarter number 3, which is distraction. So it's not important, but it can be classified as urgent, especially by other people. So this may be unnecessary meetings, phone calls, where other people may have urgency, but it might not be urgent in regards to you. So people who ring you up and ask you to just do random stuff at work when it sort of doesn't correlate to your job, but they're all in a huff and a puff. As you can see, the amount of time and energy that you put in, you don't get anywhere near the return. So you're getting about a quarter to a third of the return of the time and energy you put in. So not really worthwhile. And then the last quarter, which is number 4, is waste. So you can see the time and energy you put in, you get no return. So this is things like, you know, playing too many video games, surfing the net too much, social media you could throw in there, watching too much telly. Like those things, if you're using them as relaxation, can be great, and you could count as sort of a, if you're relaxing sort of activity that you're doing, you could put them up in that queue too if you've done some hard work and you sort of earned it. But when we're doing those things in excess, we don't get any return for the time and energy we put in. So their goal, well, they try to sort of teach to us, which I've actually adopted and found pretty useful, is that wherever you can draw from these, especially these bottom 2 quarters here, and they had some statistics, you know, roughly we spend around 30% of our time in this, like with tasks that are around this Q2, so the high value ones, and then it's, you know, it's in the low 20% for these other 3 quarters. So you can think of the things of necessity, you're getting the same return for your time and energy you put in. It's more the distraction and your waste quadrants that you want to, tasks that come into that sort of area, you want to either delegate them off to someone else or ignore them completely and try and redirect them back into that, you know, that quadrant 2 where you're getting that return for yourself, that extraordinary productivity. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I think of like value things for yourself. That's probably a better way of describing it. So strategy that I actually used before this course, and probably why I liked what this course reinforced so much, was that for tasks that you were given, what happens if you don't do those tasks? This is something I like to test a lot, especially at work. So if you don't do a task and there's no consequence, then why did you do the task in the first place? If, for instance, there is a consequence afterwards, you can always apologize and make up for it. But, you know, there's a lot of things that, for instance, in our workplace, we get given a lot of reporting we're supposed to do, all these sort of unnecessary things that never get looked at again. And I'll trial and error, I just won't do them. If someone taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, you need to do that, then I'll take care of it. But until that point, that time, I'd rather spend it back up here, you know, in this sort of valuable quadrant here, you know, that development stuff for yourself. Now to finish off, just around time, I was listening to one of Tim Ferriss's podcasts, and he had a entrepreneur sort of tech guy on, Naval Ravikant, I can't remember his name exactly. He had a really cool question that he asked his friends at dinner parties and stuff like that. And it was, if you were to sacrifice all of your material possessions and all your wealth, but you could keep all the knowledge that you have up until this day, how much time of your life back, like of your youth, would you require to sacrifice all of your wealth? So he found people who were like in their 20s and 30s, they're like, 5 years or something like that, because, you know, they hadn't sort of got much older yet. He said, you know, people in their 40s were kind of like, maybe a year or two of youth to get that back I'd pay anything to get that back. And the older people got, you know, their 60s, 70s, they're like, I would sacrifice all my wealth just to have a week back. Or you get to the end stage when someone's about to die and they're like, I would sacrifice all my wealth for an hour. It was just to demonstrate that the value of time supersedes money, like exponentially. He talks about, you know, money is a renewable resource you can get back. Time you can't get back. So that's one of the things I've changed just in my own thinking of just how valuable time is over, money and stuff like that. And that, you know, if you are doing something and it's not, you know, if you're sacrificing a lot of time and you can get someone else to take care of that for a small amount of money, then it's probably worthwhile. But yeah, guys, look, I hope you found that helpful. Give the video a like, a share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until next time, peace.